Hello and welcome to CapacityTV. Today we're at the Cisco Live event in London to speak with Cisco's Paolo Campoli. Welcome, Paolo.
Thank you for inviting me.
What do you believe is driving the adoption of 100G across Europe?
Well, it's fundamentally capacity. Bandwidth and speed are growing. We see on wireline networks, they're growing at around 40% year on year. On mobile data networks, even more, 90, 100% year on year. So service providers, they need to build larger capacity, fiber optic capacity, and 100 gig has reached the feasibility in terms of operational deployment and cost structure to make it basically the preferred optical technology of choice for service providers.
Which European markets have in particular been early adopters of 100G?
Well, surprisingly enough, we thought there would have been the large incumbents first. In reality, what we saw happening was that the large challengers, alternative service providers owning their own infrastructure, they decided to upgrade to 100 gig first, and I believe it's because they have less operational burden than some of the large incumbents. Now we see some of the large incumbents in Europe really latching on 100 gig, and you will see more press announcements from Cisco in the next few weeks to testify the adoption of 100 gig by large, significant European incumbents. The other market which is now seriously looking into 100 gig is the cable market. I mean, bear in mind with DOCSIS 3 and all the capacity building up on the last mile, they need a huge amount of optical simplified networking behind the edge and core to transport an amount of traffic. So cable is going to be the next big thing in terms of 100 gig adoption.
Why is 100G now becoming a much more cost-effective option for European operators?
Well, it has to do with the technology itself. When you look at the bill of material for a vendor like Cisco, when we build 100 gig technology on a router or a switch or a packet transport architecture, you will see that the bill of material is fundamentally led by optical components, right? When you had 1 gig or 10 gig electronics, and the silicon was the dominant component in the bill of material. Today it's optical in terms of transceivers, in terms of transmitters, modulators, and so on. So we own that core technology with the acquisition of Core Optics in terms of 100 gig technology and above, with the acquisition of Lightwire in terms of high dense packaging. By owning that, we can commit to a learning curve in terms of unit cost, similar to what we had with previous technologies. So beating the Moore's law of electronic. But you can do it only if you have your hands into the optical core technology in terms of dominating the cost base. So it's affordable when you have a commitment to be back on track with the old good laws of electronics, and I think this is what we can commit to.
What do you see as the single greatest advance that 100G is bringing to the European market?
Well, as I said earlier, it has to do with capacity first. 100 gig, if you do the basic math, it provides a much better economy of scale than 10 times 10 gigabit per second. So it's a larger pipe, better economy of scale. That's the most obvious one. The second one has to do with simplification of the network and delayering. 100 gig is the first logical step to then do IP over WDM, IP over dense wavelength multiplexing. That means that you start embedding transponders and external optical components directly into the routing engine, and that means that you basically simplify your network and you optimize your cost base. 100 gig is the first natural step in that direction.
What are some of the other market factors currently driving network evolution across Europe?
It's an interesting business out there. There are several drivers that continue to foster innovation in the networking environment for service providers. When we look back at our last 6 to 12 months of engagement with chief technology officers and key decision makers, I would say the first one has to do with cost containment, which is about network simplification, delayering the network, putting intelligence at the right stage of the network, and of course having a widespread adoption of IPv6. It has a lot to do with monetization, so how you expose capabilities from your network that can go from setting quality of service for specific transaction, financial transaction, to do path computational element in the network, and so having preferential path for certain type of applications. The third one has to do with using the network as a platform to branch out into new markets. Machine-to-machine communication, e-health are pretty, I wouldn't say straightforward one, but enabled by the network itself. One more element has to do with virtualization. Software-defined networking is becoming a recurring theme in most of our customer interaction. Virtualization drives operational simplicity on one side, using software-defined networking as a standard. Cisco is addressing this with what we call Cisco One, which is the open networking environment, which includes commitment to SDN and to OpenFlow. The other flip of the coin is that you reap the benefit of virtualization in terms of automation and in terms of exposing interfaces only when you do restructuring of operations. So we have now a practice called agile business architecture that goes hand in hand with virtualization to make operators leaner and meaner and really automate and restructure their operations. So that's a fundamental element that will drive network evolution moving forward. The overarching theme, which is becoming way more serious now for most of the service providers, is what we call the Internet of Everything.
Finally, how do you see networks evolving across Europe in the coming years?
We expect to see a little bit more consolidation. When we compare the European market with the North American market, you have a much more distributed set of service providers, which is healthy to some extent, right? There is a little bit of a competitive dynamic, but also in terms of the ability to drive innovation. Quite often it's a positive circle between the smaller players and the larger players. We expect to see expansion. The Internet of Everything will become a reality, we believe, to connect machine to machine, machine to human, and connect the 99% of things that are not yet connected today. We expect capacity build-out, a lot of capacity build-out, still driven by mobile backhauling, data center interconnect, and video everywhere. And we expect a laser focus on probably consolidating the offer from mid to large service providers to have more negotiation power in regards with the over-the-top players and some of the web-based providers to provide a more robust and healthier telco economy. So consolidation, build-out, expansion, and also a little bit of building for services in the dynamic between carriers and over-the-top players.
Thank you very much for your time, Paolo.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you will see a lot of what I was preaching at the Cisco Live event just behind me.